Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a new recording of Mahler's Second Symphony on the Philharmonia Orchestra's own label, featuring this Finnish guy who I've often disparaged for his Sibelius, because if you're Finnish, you have to do Sibelius, whether you have any feeling for Sibelius or not. And Santtu-Matias Rouvali, well, sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't, like anything else. His Mahler is good, although I have to say, I despair of my colleagues in the critical profession. Really, really, really despair of them. I mean, they give you such a bad view of how these performances really sound. I'm not flattering myself. I mean, I'm just talking about sucky professionalism. I mean, we've got Edward Seckerson in Gramophone, whose review I read, and it's just his usual sort of grab bag of vagueness. I don't know how else to describe it. He didn't like it, by the way. He thought it was lousy. Also, Norman Lebrecht, who devoted an entire 3 or 4 sentences to the performance, and in that managed to get several of his facts wrong, because it's Norman Lebrecht, of course. I love the way he contrasts this Philharmonia recording with the immortal benchmark Otto Klemperer. And he talks about how in the first movement, he's faster than the average tempo. It's 21 minutes and 55 seconds, which actually is not. I mean, it's not faster than average. It's right at average, and number one. And number two, Klemperer, that benchmark, is 2 minutes faster than Rouvali. Oh, I just love looking at these people with their, impressionistic BS. And anyway, I'm going to tell you the facts. I've really been wondering what Rouvali is good at. It seems to me that he is potentially at least quite a good Mahler conductor. This is a fine Mahler too, with 2 really noteworthy exceptions. He has a feel for the music's texture. He follows Mahler's directions for the most part quite literally, and sometimes really impressive effect. For example, the climax of the development section of the first movement. There are those commas. Now, conductors either ignore them, completely ignore them, and just rush forward, because Mahler also says, here's a pause over the first of them, and then forward, move it, go. And then he writes a couple more of them, so you can either pause again, or you can take the forward indication. Either way, it depends on how you do it. It really depends on how you do it. Most of the time, I don't like the pause version because it sounds like it keeps stopping and starting, which is irritating. However, he gets it right. He takes these pauses and he makes them long enough. It's not just a Luft pause, a breath pause. It's a caesura. That's what Mahler calls it, a caesura, a break. He makes it long enough to create suspense through the pauses. You don't know what's going to happen next, and then crash, it goes again, and then stops, and then crash, and then it goes. Pretty cool. And that struck with the bow business, is really well done. The strings going clack, 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 clack. It's very, very alarming. Sounds great. There are some wonderful things there. The ending of the movement is very nicely done. The way that last descending scale kicks in. These are wonderful interpretive touches, and he deserves full credit for having ideas that work. They really do. Seckerson was all over, the first subject was literal, and the second subject had too much rubato, and I have no idea what he's talking about. It's just absolute foolishness as far as I'm concerned. Very nicely done. The second movement is lovely and flowing. The third movement, some people have mentioned that it's too quick. Mahler marks it in quiet, flowing movement. Well, it's quiet and it flows rather rapidly. And it's quicker than most. It's more like Stokowski, although not quite, I think, as fast as that. Similar, though. I had no problem with it. Because the woodwind's character, their parody moments, the flat clarinet knows what it's doing. It's very, very nicely done, and it's exciting. So, what's to complain? The soloists are quite good. The finale has the problems. There are 2 issues. All the offstage stuff is extremely well done. I was really quite impressed in how well it's captured, given that it's a live performance. But the problem with a live performance, of course, is that you never know exactly what's going to happen. You really don't. After the two huge crescendos, the percussion crescendos, which, contrary to what some critics have said, are rather nicely done. I mean, they're as nicely done as just about anyone else does them. I don't think anybody has quite made them as crazily huge and held them back as much as they should be. Bernstein sort of does it, but you could always have more. But that's okay. After that, when the orchestra's going, the cymbal player gets hellaciously lost, enormously lost, and he's actually a bar ahead, or maybe more ahead of everybody else. They get caught up later, but oh my goodness, because when everyone's going chun chun chun, the cymbals, and this guy's going, and then you hear chun chun chun, everybody else. That's embarrassing. As a percussionist myself, today's percussionists are amazingly talented guys. I mean, they can schlong away at mallet parts of incredible complexity and virtuosity without any problem. But when they're called to count to four, as here, these things are tricky. They're tricky because Mahler's percussion writing, and most percussion writing in romantic music, it's rare, first of all, not so much in Mahler, but in most other people, relatively speaking, and it's always solo. Always. So when you're wrong, it always shows up horribly. And it does here for a few bars. It's really, really embarrassing. And percussionists, like most players, they're professionals. They're taught to count and to keep playing no matter what. What they're not taught to do is listen to the music. Because if you know this piece, and frankly, every symphonic musician should be required to know every major piece in the standard repertoire by heart. Their parts, I really believe that. I really do. There's no way you would go wrong because it's just obvious what's supposed to be happening. But that's okay. That's one problem. And then later on, after the choral stuff, which is very nicely done, it's very, very pretty. My only thing here is that the soprano, who's the soprano? Going to tell us who the soprano is? I guess they must tell us somewhere. Wait a minute. The soprano, where is it? Where is the name? Where are the names of the soloists? This is fascinating. The Philharmonia, there's Rouvali, there's the Symphony. Can you tell us who all the members of the orchestra are? All the members of the choir. I must be missing something here. Well, I can't find it. Anyway, the alto solo at Ehrlich is very good, but let's see, this is falling apart. Okay. The artwork is a little bit rudimentary, shall we say. And the nameless soloist, I'm sure they're mentioned somewhere in a book here. The soprano is a little bit too prominent in the mix. Her voice should float out of the choir. But when she comes in, she's sort of like in front. You can tell that's a recording thing. But then at the very end, when we have the big, huge Auferstehen chorus, he just goes too quickly. He just rips through it. Loren Mazel did that in his Vienna Philharmonic recording. It was equally unimpressive. Now, I know that he's sort of keeping with the proportions that Mahler indicates in this score, but, when you double the tempo at Was du geschlagen, that sort of thing, it doesn't help. It needs to have grandeur. The heavens have to open. They don't open here. So that's a little issue as well. But I was more impressed than not with the fact that Rouvali seems to have a real feel for the music. He gets the orchestra to do what he wants them to do. For the most part, except for that damn cymbal player, they play very, very well. The sonics are good. The audience is quiet until the very end when they jump up and down and scream and yell, as usually happens at the end of this piece. It was much, much more a positive impression than a negative one. This is not a recording that anybody needs, obviously. There's a million Mahler 2s out there. Some of them are fabulous. But I was very pleasantly surprised to get to know this conductor, whose Sibelius made no impression on me at all, who just seemed mannered and uncomfortable. And here, it seems like he's much more in his element. Damn what the Brits say. They have no idea what they're talking about. So yeah, it has its moments, and Mahler fans might want to hear it. And that's all I can tell you. I mean, whether you need another Mahler too, one that has its live issues, is up to you. But Rouvali, good job. Good job. If I had been at the concert, I think I would have enjoyed it enormously. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.